This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. UFO drones are surveilling America's most sensitive military sites, and the Pentagon says that it can't stop them. And they're also saying that it's operated by a UFO mothership. But of course, this UFO mothership is your own government, really. And the reason that they can't stop them is because, well, there isn't really anything happening than your own government flying drones around, surveilling America. Now, they're not really surveilling America's most sensitive military sites, but that's what they want you to do. They're actually using it to surveillance balloons and all these other things for you, right? You may remember I covered this many times that the Pentagon launched mass surveillance balloons over America, but they were trying to distract you and tell you that China was the one sending balloons over America. But guess what? Your own government, the Pentagon, was testing mass surveillance balloons on us and then pretending it was China. Why do you think they didn't shoot them down? Or even if they did shoot them down, they just didn't really want anyone to notice it. And then they took the story and turned it into a spectacle, all while making sure no civilians out there realized their own government was spying on them, which everybody out there already should know with the Patriot Act. But we need to focus on this story with UFOs, because when you start looking at patterns, it helps your brain awaken. They don't expect you to notice everything happening at once. They don't notice somebody to put a bow on this so you can see all these things and how they're connected. They just expect to program you day in and day out with similar types of stories that get you into accepting their narrative, which is eventually this fake alien invasion that they have planned. Now, everything out there shows us that they're going forward with this. And would you really be surprised if they actually went through with this, let's say next week, and they told us that there was an alien invasion, and then the majority of our neighbors and people out there actually believe it? Well, of course we wouldn't be surprised now, because we have people who are still going to CVS and Walgreens and putting things inside their body. We still have people walking around with masks on. So would you be surprised if people believed if the news told them there was an alien invasion? Well, of course they will, because they'll clearly believe anything. And in fact, I also wouldn't be surprised that if they start pushing this propaganda, they'll immediately say that anybody out there that denies this propaganda needs to be silenced because it's dangerous that they're denying the truth, right? Because remember, ultimately this is about questioning the news. That's the whole thing that happened with Alex Jones and the Hook and Sandy. They don't want you questioning the news because they have a lot of fake stuff planned out that they're going to display for you on the news, and you're supposed to trust the news and think that what the news is giving you are real world events, but they're not. They're simulations that are occurring. So we have UFO drones, okay? No motive, whatever. This is the type of stories that are out there. Now, this ain't The Onion. This ain't you at the grocery store looking at some crazy black and white newspaper that they used to sell. This is the government telling you this information. The government obviously wants you to believe that UFO drones are surveilling America's most sensitive military sites. So what does this tell us? What does this UFO mothership narrative tell us? It tells us that we are very close to a major deception occurring. Now, I want you to pay attention to the other stuff going on, because I've been talking about manipulation in the sky. The manipulation in the sky, there's lots of things that can be occurring here with manipulation in the sky. Yes, weather modification and weather control. Yes, potential EMPs that they could be using and creating these aurora lights to use in the sky on us, like the so-called Carrington event that has been getting discussed a lot. What else are you seeing in the sky? So you're seeing northern lights. You're seeing these bizarre weather patterns, right? You're seeing northern lights all over the place. You're seeing mini moons, 2 moons, right? The Earth will get a second mini moon. You're seeing rare comets that we've never seen in quote unquote 80,000 years. That's what they tell us, which of course we know is propaganda. At the same time, again, you see the Vatican releasing new guidance for alleged supernatural phenomena. So all these things, if you start paying attention to all the stuff going on in the sky with geoengineering, with HARP, with all of these simulations we're seeing occurring in the sky, at the same time that the government is giving us these stories about UFO drones surveilling America, right? We have the Vatican telling us that there's some type of supernatural phenomenon imminent and that they're going to give us the guidance for it, which means that they're going to tell you if what happens in the sky is either supernatural or if it's something caused potentially from an alien event. So while all this stuff is happening in the sky, I remind you that I've told you many times, HARP is doing experiments causing artificial auroras, right? So it tells us that they're playing games in the sky, which if they're playing games in the sky, and they're doing these things. It tells us that something is eventually coming, and it's going to be more than just weather control and weather modification. At the same time as those things, keep in mind, recently I covered police across the U.S. have been given a new UFO handbook as they pose significant safety risks. So now we have the police being given this. So they're creating a reality around us, right? We have the police being given UFO handbooks, which is the equivalent of like giving the police a handbook on how to stop a Teletubby or, the Hamburglar, right? Now we're supposed to accept this as reality, right? UFOs are real. They're telling us it's real. You don't need to see it yourself. They're telling you it's real. Aliens are telling us are real. We need to accept the narrative of what an alien is, right? An alien from another planet. These are all deceptions. They've obviously been programming us with alien programming forever. Recently, I even showed you at the Video Music Awards on MTV, right? The demon making out with the demon. I mean, the girl or the boy making out with the alien gray, right? We've seen this over and over again. Almost every musician has a music video that has some type of alien propaganda in it. This is how they just start convincing you that there is life out there. You don't need to see it with your own eyes. We'll tell you it's out there. Then they keep showing you from all different angles all this stuff. At the same time as all that, recently we're seeing more and more movies coming out that are not Hollywood productions, that are not movies like War of the Worlds or Independence Day. We're seeing more movies that are quote unquote documentary type movies, right? Netflix releasing Investigation Alien. Netflix releasing the Manhattan alien abduction, right? So there's a big difference here in people's perception of reality. One being, okay, you go to the movies to see Independence Day. You're supposed to go, think that what you're watching is fake, and then go home. Now we're seeing them push propaganda of documentary type of films where people talk about their experience with UFOs, their experience with aliens, and we're seeing it more and more. This makes your mind automatically start accepting this as something that's real, just something that you haven't seen yet in your own life. But you start telling yourself, well, this guy saw it, that guy saw it, this must be really happening out there. What are we going to do about it? And eventually they'll deceive you into thinking it's real when they do a mass alien deception. But remember, it's very important to note because people get very critical of me about UFOs and about aliens, okay? UFOs may exist, but they're called government flying objects, okay? They're not unidentified ones from Mars, from Uranus. The government has these types of things. So if you've seen one in the sky, you've likely seen some type of weird shaped object in the sky that they want you to believe is being flown by a gray alien, okay? Now, aliens don't exist, but demons do, okay? Aleister Crowley taught this in his book. Today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they will call them something else. That is alien. The depiction of an alien, again, comes from Aleister Crowley's Lam. It is a demon. That's why we see this depiction of an alien all looking like this. Nobody's ever asked the question, how do you know the alien doesn't look like Brad Pitt? How do you know the alien doesn't look like Pamela Anderson? How do you know that it looks like this if you've never found one before? Oh, well, the government's found one before. They just don't want to tell us, but they're releasing what it could potentially look like. It's because that's what these fallen ones look like. And the other thing at the same time is all of this alien propaganda is out there, as all these events are happening in the sky. Don't forget all of this stuff being pushed right now with portals, right? Just recently covered Kanye West, portals. Katy Perry, the portal opens. Eminem, portal opening, okay? We had that portal in New York City. We have this new theme park, Epic Universe, which is all about dimension hopping and going through portals to enter the park. The Weeknd just had his big show where he was going through portals. You have portals, you have alien deception all over the place, whether it's music videos or the news themselves, convincing you of something. The more they tell you that this is real, the more you'll believe it. Kind of like during that outbreak. The more they told you that something was really occurring, the more people believed it. And we see how that psychosis works, right? We still see people masking up. All they had to do was constantly hit you with propaganda so hard, so often, that you start believing in falsehoods, okay? You start suddenly believing that hospitals are overflowing. Because your perception of reality is being morphed by the news, because you're thinking when you turn the news on, you're getting information about the world, but you're getting it through Satan's eyes. You're not getting it through a clear lens. They're telling you that this stuff is happening, but they're manufacturing it, right? So now, with all the propaganda we've seen over the years with alien films, right, going back to the 40s and 50s and Star Trek and Star Wars, right? They've been training us to believe it's potentially could happen. Now they're telling you it is. So it's gone from could there be life out there to the government themselves doing things like releasing articles about UF drones flying over America's military bases, releasing things like, oh, the UFO mothership is out there, releasing things like even recently I covered that UFO that was shot down in Canada, right? Where they were telling you, oh, the Canadian government released the image of a UFO down over Yukon. Sorry that it's in black and white and it looks like it was taken in the 1800s, but this is the best we could give you right now, right? Or just the fact of the other stuff that they're doing subliminally, which programs people. Remember, they are obviously, the methods of mind control that they know are far beyond our comprehension. So everything they do has a reason behind it, right? So we can look at all the movies, we can look at some news articles. These are the things that work as well. Bringing people into Congress, right? Behind the scenes of UFO whistleblowers. So they have these UFO whistleblowers, as if these people aren't compromised agents, showing up in Congress and saying, oh, I saw a UFO. Oh, I saw. So then the people at home are like, oh my gosh, this has got to be real, right? Because they don't know how secret societies work. They don't know how compromised individuals work. They think that, like, as if there's an open sign up to go into Congress and speak to Congress about this stuff, right? As if I could go into Congress tomorrow and talk about weather modification or satanic ritual abuse. Oh, of course I can, right? But these people, of course, because they're ex-military or ex-CIA, they're going to let them go into Congress. They're going to put it on national news. They're going to put it on national TV, and everyone thinks it's real. So they have these guys going into Capitol Hill talking about UFOs. This is all being deliberately done, okay? Don't forget, just because they go to Congress to talk, this is something in people's minds that makes them automatically think there's something going on. There's something real here. These people are going to whistleblow in Congress. Oh, then the congressmen play dumb, right? Don't forget, this is your same Congress that last year literally was having people come into Congress defining what a woman was. So if you're actually going to think that this whole thing in Congress is real and not a charade, just remember that. Okay, that's just proof that what it is a circus. They go in there and they debate these things because they're trying to blur your lines of what's real and what's not. So the story that's out there, let me read it to you. Fleets of dozens of mysterious UFO drones are surveilling America's most sensitive military sites, and the Pentagon admits it can't do anything to stop it. Oh, it can't? You can't shoot them down? I mean, it's unbelievable. Drones of unknown origin have been spotted flying over military bases in Virginia and Nevada in the past year, including the secret base for the Navy's Elite SEAL Team 6 Commando Unit and Naval Station Norfolk. It's just it's like a Rambo plot. The world's largest naval port, according to the Wall Street Journal. Federal laws, however, prohibit the military from shooting down the drones due to the potential risk to troops and civilians. Gotta love that excuse, right? As if there's not a bigger risk if there was really some type of alien surveilling over the military bases. Right, so the military can't shoot it down. Don't worry about it. Because the military can't shoot it down because it's their own drones. And they're not flying anything over their military bases. They're flying drones over all of us because they're using surveillance on us 24/7. So jamming their signals was also ruled out in high-level White House meetings, according to the Wall Street Journal, over concerns that it could interfere with 911 systems, Wi-Fi networks, and commercial airlines. How convenient. The result is that the Pentagon has little recourse to halt the potential surveillance from foreign adversaries. Former USA, since when? I mean, it's unbelievable, right? It's really unbelievable. Look, all this stuff is make-believe, what they tell you, but it's unbelievable the excuses they give as to why they can't do this or do that, right? We can't protect you because there's rules in place, or the thing could fall on a civilian's head. So we could risk the potential, we couldn't catch it in a net or something, right? Can't they just catch it in a net? All right, put a big net underneath it, have one plane underneath it with a net, have one plane above it, and why don't you just use an electromagnetic pulse and short circuit the thing? Oh, right, because that would make sense, and we don't want it to make sense. So we'll continue to tell you that there's UFOs flying above us who are spying on us. So then when we wipe off the electrical grid or something like that, we'll have some boogeymen in place who we could blame it on. The UFOs did it, right? So they go on to say why they can't. But the common thing here is that they can. They can, and they want you to continue to think that these are news stories, right? Do you understand the difference between them telling you this on the news versus using it in movies? This is dual conditioning. But everybody watches the news and accepts that it's real. So the more they start telling you that there's real UFO stories, they don't even need to do some type of mass story where they say a UFO has crashed in New York City, where everybody will go, what? Huh? They just are now just telling you UFOs and aliens are real. You need to accept it. That's the way that they're talking in these articles. Oh, there's just UFOs flying over. Oh, so now UFOs are definitely real. Oh, yeah, they're definitely real. Well, we've had whistleblower. Oh, so now we have to accept this as reality. And then next thing you know, they'll start saying anyone out there that says that the government's responsible for it are conspiracy theorists and they need to be silenced and shut down because they don't want you to get pulled out of their psychosis, right? And again, the more you hear stories that come out that have this illusion behind them that they're real. Ooh, this is happening. UFOs are flying over military bases. Ooh, a UFO was shot down in Canada, right? This is how they're proofing it to you, by making it up. But by putting it on the news, your brain is automatically accepting that this stuff actually exists now. You don't need to see it with your own two eyes anymore. Nobody does. That's the reality we live in. That's the psychosis, right? Nobody needs to see anything but their own eyes. Kind of like during the outbreak. Nobody saw people dropping dead in the grocery store. Nobody went to Walmart and saw people broken out in hives crawling on the ground. Yet people went and poisoned themselves. People were putting masks on. People were locking themselves in their home because that's how a psychosis works. And they use the news to create the psychosis. Now, for anybody out there that doesn't know about Project Bluebeam, which is on the horizon, I've covered it many times, but I'll play this for you on Project Bluebeam because there's a massive deception coming. Now, the clip I'll play for you here, there's some things in the clip that a lot of you will disagree with. I'm not saying that I don't disagree either. It's just a good video where you can see how they plan on projecting Project Bluebeam. And obviously we know a lot of the technologies that they have already and how they'll do it. You could decide on your take on the shape of the earth and the firmament and those things. But for anybody out there that's new to all this stuff, that doesn't understand what Project Bluebeam is, here is a breakdown of Project Bluebeam.
James Webb Space Telescope. Using the largest deployable telescope ever launched, James Webb Space Telescope will peer deep into space, through cosmic dust and further back in time than ever before, to observe the universe billions of years ago when stars and galaxies were just beginning to form.
So that's just a breakdown on Project Bluebeam, and I've covered it many times, and I'll be continuing to cover it because eventually this will really be happening in real time. Project Bluebeam will be unleashed. There's no doubt in my mind about it. There's no doubt. And people will, look, I would have said 10 years ago that people would have not believed it, that people would have listened to people like us, or they would have been rational. No one's rationally thinking. The psychosis is so deep that people will, again, it's like that line from The Matrix. People will defend the Matrix. They will defend the system, the same one that's oppressing them, the same one that's doing these things to them psychologically. They will believe whatever they're told. And when they get told this, they're going to bring about more censorship on us. The Vatican and things like that have been put in place to be the voice over religion, right? Quote unquote religion. They're going to be a voice to tell you if it was God or if it was an alien. Then that's the authority figure. And people will obviously believe that before they'll believe people like us. But all we can do is scream from the rooftops and hope that people don't get to see it. But ladies and gentlemen, the mothership is here. The mothership is here. UFO drones are surveilling Americans. Yeah. And so is the Pentagon and the CIA. And, 99.9% of Americans don't even know what the Patriot Act is. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised at this point. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.